Talking F1 with Steve, Neil and the Gov. Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to your Wednesday night pit stop. You're Talking Formula One, the show for the fan of Formula One by fans of Formula One. This evening, it is just myself and Steve. Neil is still sunning himself north of the border on holiday. I hope he's having a great time, but he's missed a hell of a week to be away. And obviously, we've got not a new world champion, my friends, but a reigning two-time world champion. Again, murky circumstances, I think it's probably fair to say. We'll get into that. We've got other bits and pieces coming out of the Japanese Grand Prix, but as always, we can only do these shows really with your help, your love and your input. So if you've got anything to say, anything at all, whether you're a new fan, old fan, returning fan, do let us know in the comments. Of course, you're more than welcome to come on the show. You have your say. If the way Max retained, whatever the tractor incident, whatever it might have been that come out of this Grand Prix, whatever got your goat or your juices flowing, as it were, then please do come onto the platform and have your say. Mike Baker has chimed straight in with Formula One has done itself no favors. Mike, I'd love you to elaborate on that opinion a little bit more, buddy. What about it has it not done itself any favors? About put some meat on that juicy bone. And as always, you can find this show on all good podcast platforms. Just search Talking Formula One, and you should find us. Leave us a like, hit subscribe, 5-star review, all of that jazz. The aficionado, Stephen Thompson.
No, I think Bottas he'll be the one to really hold out.
There he is, Stephen Thompson. How are you, my man?
I'm very well. Yourself?
Very well. We started the show obviously with the menus. We'll come to that in a minute. When you joined the show earlier, you were jamming. You had your guitar. Tell the people at home, what is your favourite bass riff? Is that how you call it? I'm not a bass player.
I suppose you get the easy, catchy ones, like Seven Nation Army, another one Bites the Dust, The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. That's a hell of a groove. But I think one of my favourites is Money by Pink Floyd. That's got to be right up there.
Okay. Nice. What was the first one you learned?
First one I learned was I Want You to Want Me by Cheap Trick, because it's simple. Actually, to be fair, one that's right up there for me is Stranger in a Strange Line by Iron Maiden. If you haven't listened to it, it's just...
Stranger in a Strange Line.
Land.
I shall have to look it up after the show. I can't say I've ever heard of it. Talking of things I never really hear, Latifi and P9.
Steve. I know, how amazing was that? It's incredible. The thing that's incredible about that is someone, an American Williams fan, I believe, said that he'll get a tattoo if Latifi scores points in the remaining races. Okay. And he did. So he has. He's actually got the Williams logo with LAT next to it.
Wow,
fair play. But yeah, no, that was a very good call from him and the team when it was all kicking off on the restart, which obviously no doubt we'll get into. Latifi and Vettel came in for intermediate tyres. Everyone stayed out on the wets, and didn't look back. P6 for Vettel, P9 for Latifi. So when Albon was out on lap 1, I thought, well, that's it. That's the best chance of points gone. We're done, because obviously Latifi's not exactly set the world alight. But fair play to him. Kept his nose clean, did some good racing, and two points for Williams. Obviously, they're still going to be P10 in the championship, but I think they'll take any points they can get right now.
2 points for Williams, points for Latifi. He said after the race, he was really happy with that. At the end, it was very tough conditions out there. For me, it was clear on the safety confirmation that it was going to be inter conditions. We just made the call right away to get them on as soon as possible. Obviously, that was crucial in getting those points. And a little bit of free air, because that was the biggest thing in being the pack, was the spray. Latifi ending, not with 0 points then, Steve. He's going to be having points as he ends his Williams career. Not many races left for him in the blue and black, but... is it blue and black? Am I right in saying that?
Blue, black, white, dash of red. Mainly blue. Yeah, 4 races left of his F1 career, most likely. He's back up to 20th in the 20 driver championship after spending most of it in P21. So fair play. Yeah, he shone. It's obviously too little too late, but those kind of drives earlier on in his F1 career would have helped him.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Good for him. Let's come to the big news then, right? We've got the pleasantries out of the way. Max Verstappen is your world champion once again. Now I keep budgies. I'm in the bird room Sunday morning, radio on, listening to the race. You hear the results, and then suddenly there's Max has just been told halfway through an interview that he's world champion, and now they're bringing out banners, and you got the commentators saying, "But I don't know how he's the champion because from my mathematics, there's still 1 point in it, and this is, it was just in a bit of mass confusion of nonsense."
Yeah, I think the rules were a little bit cloudy. That he is, legitimate. They haven't changed rules for him or anything like that, and all these conspiracy theorists and all that rubbish. But it is in the rules, so it was 4 points, and it's a thoroughly deserved second world championship for him. But it was the manner of which he won it. Last year was controversial. I'm not going to go into last year; we've covered that enough. This year, it's a bit sort of anti-climax, because he's run away with this championship with Ferrari. Obviously the issues they've had this year. And you'd have thought that he'd have crossed the line, that have said, "You're a world champion." What I had in my head, he crossed the line, he's a world champion, he's screaming on the radio, the team is screaming at him, and it's that standard celebration. But he crosses the line, he's P1, 20-second lead he pulled out in a 40-odd lap race, or 45-minute race, which is insane.
Incredible.
And then Johnny Herbert starts talking to Perez, congratulating him on his P3, which then became P2, because the FIA gave Charles Leclerc a deserved 5-second penalty. It was a penalty. And all these people saying that, they decided that penalty really quickly. Yes, because it was a blatant penalty. And I'm saying that as a Charles Leclerc fan, it was a penalty. And they said, so that, by my calculations, Max, you're a world champion. And he's going, great, okay. He's in the cool-down room. No one knows what's going on.
Halfway through an interview, I think, wasn't it?
So Max, you're a world champion. He's going, but I'm not. You are. You've won it. Have I?
Which is funny, because all the commentators were also saying, is he?
Yeah.
How's that? And you say, obviously, last year controversy, this year they've not done a new rule for him, they've not blah, blah, blah. But I've seen many people write on social media, this is it, I'm done with Formula One, they've turned me off for good, consecutive championships settled on consecutive controversies, I'm done. This is not the way it should be. What do you say back to those people, Steve?
If they want to leave, then they can do it, that's fine. There's still millions of diehard fans out there that won't turn their back on Formula One.
But you can see their point of view.
I can see why they're frustrated, because obviously Verstappen fans are going to be happy. He's won it regardless. Last year was controversial. I'm not going to go into last year. We've done that time and time again. This year was controversial, but it wasn't as, there was, it was 4 points. It was in the rules. If the race is red flagged, if it's resumed, then they can award 4 points. And it was resumed. Yes, it was a 45-minute sprint, effectively.
So what was the confusion between... if we resume, we can award 4 points, and then nobody seeming to realise that they could. Is it one of those rules which is buried so deep that no one even knew it was there? How does this get so confusing at the crucial time?
Well, what they were talking about during the race as well was that there's you can sort of imagine 3 columns of points awarded. So the first one, if you complete between X amount and X amount of laps, then the top 6, I think it is, get points, and they're reduced, obviously. If you complete the middle column, then the top 9 got points, again, slightly reduced. I think the winner would get about 13. And then if you complete this column, then you can get 4 points. Something along those lines. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. I can't remember it.
Yep.
And they were saying, we're now into the second column because we completed X amount of laps. But there was something in the rules that said if a race is red flagged at any point and then resumed, they can award 4 points. And that's the difference between this one and Spa last year, because obviously that was the big comparison and the controversy. They awarded Spa half points because it wasn't resumed. You had 2 laps behind a safety car, and they said nope, and they called it off. Whereas this time, they waited about 2 bloody hours. I was up at 4:30. I've been up for 6 hours, and the race only just finished. That's what it felt like. And they could award 4 points. And it's a fully deserved championship for Verstappen, but it's how he won it. I'd love to, as much as I really, really wanted Charles Leclerc and Ferrari to win this, seeing him cross the line screaming over the radio would have been much better. That's how you want to win a world championship.
Well, and I think Formula One itself wants that to be the way people win a world championship, because it gives you endless amounts of clips, quotes, content across your social media platforms, your YouTube platforms. Everything's driven about this whole machine in everything. I'm not just Formula One, and they want that as well. They don't want this end of race. Has he? Is he? Huh? Have they done that right? I used to work out to be a point. No one wants that. Nobody, from the fans and the neutrals to diehards to particularly, I would say, the content media managers at Formula Bloody One. They're like, oh no, we've lost our content.
Yeah, that's the thing. And when it comes to the end of season, I suppose they always have like a little end of season review video, with snippets from the best bit of the season. No doubt they'll include Charles' scream from when he crashed from the lead in France, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you want to include Max Verstappen is a world champion and that sort of thing, with him going, yeah, over the radio. And you're not going to get that. You're just going to have Johnny Herbert going, oh, Max, apparently you've won it. Congratulations. Oh, okay. That's the end.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Deserved champion, or is he a deserved champion? Is it deserved, or is it been handed to him on the back of incompetence at another team?
That hasn't helped. If things had gone differently, the championship would still be going. Obviously, it'd be a lot closer. Verstappen would still be leading, no doubt. But if the engine hadn't failed in Spain, Charles would have won that. If Charles hadn't crashed out, that was his own fault. In France, he would have won that. If the car hadn't failed in Monaco, he would have won that. Oh, no, not car failure. It was a strategy error. Strategy. So if they hadn't blown it on strategy, he'd have won that. If they hadn't had an engine failure or various engine failures, Azerbaijan as well, he had an engine failure. So it could have been a very different landscape, but he is thoroughly deserved because he has been there all season, even after the first couple of races where Charles was about 40 odd points clear, if not more, after he'd won 2 races and Max had 2 DNFs.
Yep.
People thought, well, this is it. He's not going to retain his title. This is going to be Charles Leclerc.
Possibly could have been had they got themselves an actual.
Yeah, it's always a sort of should have, would have, really thing, isn't it? With that, you think, well, you shouldn't have ballsed up in Monaco. You shouldn't have had an engine failure. You should have built a more reliable car. Do you want a slower car that's reliable, or do you want a fast car that tears itself to pieces?
And that is a great point. Yeah, absolutely great point. So
Red Bull managed to get a fast car that's reliable.
They did, and they will again. Obviously, we'll come to the cost cap in a little while. I'm sure many fans at home would say, "Well, you would do with the cost cap," but we'll come to that in due course. Before we come to the incident that should never happen in a Formula One race, particularly after incidences that have gone before it. Your top 4 from Japan were Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, and Esteban Ocon. Lewis Hamilton in 5th, the George Russell down in 8th, keeping his ex-Williams teammate Latifi company. Russell questions the strategy, Steve. Mercedes, what's going on with them? Because are we going to see a win for them in the last 4? Is it the right strategy? Was George right to criticise it? How did you see their 2 races?
I can understand his skepticism about it. There was a few people who didn't make pit stops that ended up finishing higher. Well, I think in Mercedes' position, right, we'll roll the dice. If we're not going to win it, we can risk getting a few extra points by this strategy. So they're in a sort of little race of their own, essentially, almost. But I always said in the earlier podcast of this season that I had no doubt that Mercedes would win a race this year and they would find that competitiveness.
Still hold that?
No, I don't. I want them to be in the fight for the lead. I'd love to see George fighting for. Obviously, we know what Lewis can do, but I'd love to see George fighting for a win. And I always said that I'm very confident that Mercedes, with the resources they have and the history they've got, the past decade has been their playground. But I can't see them getting a win. Red Bull are just insane at every circuit. There's not a track where you think, oh, Red Bull are going to struggle here.
No. It would have been an individual error, wouldn't it? Of some description, or a car error, a mechanical fault, that type of thing. I'm with you on there.
And the car is still not as quick as Ferrari. And Ferrari, Charles Leclerc is now getting a good few podiums on the bounce now, so they seem a lot more consistent. But I could easily see Red Bull winning the remaining 4 races.
Well, this is
hands down.
Do you feel Mercedes need a lot of variables to line up for it to be a win in their favour? Not only does Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez need to have an issue, mechanical or otherwise, it's also so does Ferrari. It's like there's too many variables here for it to kind of be, you need 4 or 5 things, not just the one.
Yeah, if you're talking about a standard boring race where the top 6 finish, your top 6 really are going to be the Red Bulls, the Ferraris, the Mercedes. If they all finish, I can't see Mercedes getting a race win. A podium, yes, they've obviously got lots this season, but a race win, no. You'd have to have Ferrari messing up and Red Bull having issues as well. A chaotic wet race, maybe. Lewis is very good in the wet.
Absolutely.
So things can happen, but I can't see it now. I think it's too late in the season now.
If I asked you to sum me up what track suits their car, as in what does their car need from a track to win? Is it what would you say is the case?
I honestly couldn't answer it. In the past, it would have been a circuit where something like the Williams, for example, goes really well at Monza because it's quite a slippery car in a straight line. But you didn't really see that in the Mercedes because when Hamilton was fighting Ocon and they were coming down the really long back straight before that 130R left-hander.
Yeah,
he'd be in the slipstream and he'd pull out, and then Ocon would just get that. He'd just increase his lead again, and it's just the Mercedes couldn't keep up very closely with the Alpine, which is surprising. But it tends to like smoother circuits. Had a lot of porpoising issues earlier in the season. They seem to be largely eradicated now. But I don't know if there's a specific circuit. Brazil, maybe, I think could be their best chance. Or Abu Dhabi, because Abu Dhabi is quite smooth. But again, it's quite a fast circuit, and the car just doesn't really seem to have the straight line speed to keep up with the likes of Red Bull or Ferrari.
Something about the United States just stands out to me. Don't know why. Don't know if it's because I think Hamilton, it needs to have that win. United States is a big market. I don't know. Just I look at the list: US, Mexico, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi. Could be, just an absolute, dart. Throw it at the wall, whichever one lands first. From my perspective, looking at that list of 4, but yeah, it'd be a real shame, obviously, because you've got that long streak as well to continue. We've got 4 races for it to continue.
That's a hell of a record to lose, isn't it? You've been in F1 since 2007. You've won a race, at least one race in every year of your Formula One career. That is just phenomenal. But
it's unheard of, yeah.
4 races to go. I think he is the only driver to win in every season he's been in F1.
I'm sure that's why I know of it, because I think it was made such a huge thing of it. That it's a history, it's records, it's can he continue it? I hope he does, and I'm a big Hamilton fan, but I hope he does just because it's always, I think it's nice. It's a little bit special that the top drivers seem to have that little bit something that people go, he's one of the greatest because he's one of the greatest because of this, blah blah blah. But we'll see, But you don't think he's gonna get it?
I can't see it. No, unfortunately, I think that record may come to an end in a month or so.
That's a shame. They have to get their strategy right, though. Which is first and foremost, which obviously George didn't think they did.
No, you need the strategies right, and you need Red Bull and Ferrari to mess up majorly. Ferrari, yeah, fair enough. But that's
right.
Almost a formality.
It's a given. Everyone expects it, even Ferrari, I think, these days. Just before we move on, you've got Ocon finishing in 4th, Alpine there, the 2 McLarens in 10th and 11th. That's obviously Lando Norris in 10th, Daniel Ricciardo in 11th. So in the constructors, Alpine are now 4th, 13 points ahead of McLaren. Are Alpine now the 4th best team in Formula One? Have McLaren slipped and Alpine surged from absolutely nowhere?
I think so. Alpine had a disastrous Singapore, both DNFing, and the McLaren's got a good result. I think they were 5th and 6th, I think. So McLaren were 3 points ahead, I believe, of McLaren coming into this race. And suddenly they've just flipped. McLaren only scored 1 point. And Fernando's right up there. I think he was about P7, Ocon P4. Incredible. And Alpine is good. It looks really good. Fernando was 5th in qualifying, which was amazing. He has been fantastic this year, but that car has just let him down so many times. Typical Fernando driving, but the car has been unreliable as hell. Ocon was really good. Obviously, he defended so well against Lewis.
He did really well.
P4, his best result of the year. Probably his best ever drive in Formula One, I would say, considering the circumstances, the conditions, what he was up against. Obviously, he won in Hungary last year, but I think Alpine are the clear 4th team now.
Is that a surprise to you?
It is. I mean, mainly because of how poor Daniel Ricciardo has been this year. But Lando was doing all right, but they seem to have slipped in recent races. Obviously, Daniel has held the team. It breaks my heart to say it, but he has held himself and the team back this year because he's been woeful. But yeah, Ocon I've never really rated as that sort of, top tier driver that I'd put the likes of Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, in, but he's doing all right. He's getting better. He's got a new teammate next year, of course, in Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly. So, yeah, I think they are the clear fourth best team now.
Okay, there we go. I was surprised to see that. Obviously, Neil's a McLaren fan. We'll have to get his thoughts next time. I think next week when he's back on the show. So we have to come to the incident. I'm going to show you a clip for those listening on audio platforms. Obviously, this isn't going to be any good. But if you know what we're talking about, is of course the tractor incident. This was the incident, Steve. As you can see here, I mean, that's not me playing with the settings or anything. That is the actual visibility on the track. And as we play this clip, you'll see there a flashing amber light, which of course is what, Stephen Thompson?
Well, amber is I don't know if it was red flag by that point or if it was still yellow, but yellow, you got to slow down, prepare to stop, sort of thing. There's the tractor, just went past it.
I didn't even see it. I did not even see it. Where? Oh, there. I mean, so talk me through this, Steve, because this should never happen, ever.
No.
What on earth happened? How did it happen? What? Good God.
Well, lap one, Sainz crashed. Obviously, the conditions, hit a puddle, spun into the wall. Very lucky not to be collected by any other cars because Hamilton was so close to him as they went past. Gasly ended up hitting a advertising hoarding that had come back onto the track that was caught up in the Sainz crash, got stuck on the front of his car, broke off his front wing. So Gasly had to come into pit because he had the front of his car, it looked like a massive snow shovel on the front of his car. Safety car comes out, collects the drivers. Because Gasly's obviously in the pits for quite a while, he comes out long way behind the rest. So the other guys have gone far around the circuit. Gasly is quite far behind. He's driving to catch up to the queue. During which time the marshals have deployed a tractor onto the circuit, bearing in mind that the conditions are absolutely terrible. The visibility is worsening.
Yep.
They've deployed a tractor onto the circuit to recover Sainz's car, and then Gasly goes speeding through. And he only saw it at the last minute, and he was saying he was fuming. He was back at the garage, and he was. We saw his reaction before we'd seen what had actually happened. So, watching on TV, he's shouting as having a go at his pit crew, and well, not at them, but towards them. And if everyone's thinking, well, he got annoyed because he got this advertising hoarding stuck on his thing because the race had since been red flagged. And then footage emerged of this tractor being on the circuit that he almost hit.
So this is what Gasly said. God, what is this tractor? What is this tractor on the track? I passed next to it. This is unacceptable. What has happened? Can't believe this. That is what he said. And then Gasly was overheard saying, I could have killed myself. There's this effing tractor while I'm driving flat out.
Apparently he's had nightmares about it.
I can imagine so.
Yeah, I would as well. I'd have shot myself.
Absolutely.
It's very reminiscent of an incident we had at the very same circuit in exactly the same conditions back in 2014. Young driver, F1 fans will know, Jules Bianchi. Young French, I think he was French. Yeah, young French driver, up and coming, really highly rated. Would have been in a Ferrari one day. There was an incident on the circuit where I think Adrian Sutil had spun off in his Sauber, and they had a tractor on circuit to clear his vehicle, clear his car. So double wave yellows and flashing yellows all around the circuit, and Jules Bianchi lost control of his car, and rather than thumping into the tyre barrier, which he should have done, and climbing out of his car, he thumped straight into the back of this recovery vehicle. And that's obviously before the days of the virtual safety car, which was brought in partly because of this accident, and it was before the days of the halo. So his head took the brunt of that impact. And unfortunately, he was then he had severe head injuries. He was in a coma, and unfortunately, he passed away back in 2015, I believe, because of those injuries, which was absolutely heartbreaking. And then, obviously, safety has been largely improved since then. With the introduction of the virtual safety car, with the introduction of the halo, which has saved so many lives since, namely, Charles Leclerc, Romain Grosjean. To name but a few. That's not just in Formula One.
In the last 2 years.
And they the outrage that there was a vehicle on circuit clearing up a car, but when there were cars still circulating, was incredible. And they've done it again. Same circuit, same conditions. Yeah, they were very fortunate. And it wasn't just Pierre Gasly, it was other drivers. There's onboard footage I've seen, I think Daniel Ricciardo as well. You can hardly see this tractor, and they've come speeding past it. And then Gasly everyone was kicking off at Sky Broadcasters because they were basically blaming Gasly for driving too fast. So you can't put any blame on Pierre. He did eventually get a fine, I think, and some penalty points because of the speed he was going. And he said, yeah, all right, maybe I was driving a bit too fast. I was trying to catch up to the pack. Understandable. But there shouldn't have been a recovery vehicle on circuit anyway.
He got points. Effectively a speeding fine.
He got points on his super license for that. A couple of penalty points for it. Basically, if you accumulate a certain amount of points in a 12-month period, you get a race ban. So he got penalised, which, okay, he did take some of the blame. Said, yeah, okay, I was going quite fast, but you're trying to catch up to the pack. And there shouldn't have been a recovery vehicle on circuit anyway, until you know that either all the cars are behind the safety car going at a set speed, or the race has been red flagged and they're all stopped in the pit and there is nothing on track. You don't get a recovery vehicle out. It could have been seriously painful.
We would have been sat here, just a completely different tone, show, everything. It just so thankful nothing of the sort happened.
Absolutely.
But we've got to learn from these mistakes. We've got to learn. And then, as you say, it's not the first time.
No.
It's got to be the last. It certainly has. As we close the show, cost cap. Who's broken what? Who's done what? What's the ramifications? Give us the latest update then, Stephen.
Well, that's still a bit up in the air. Two teams, Red Bull, have broken it. And I think Aston Martin were either close or they had something with procedural. I'm not too sure about that. I've forgotten the word.
Procedural.
Red Bull broke the cost cap by about 5%, I think I read, which could be millions of dollars, which is enough. I think Martin Brundle said it's enough for a substantial upgrade for a car of Red Bull or Mercedes scale. It could be like a B-spec upgrade for a team like a Williams or a Haas. This could be a substantial upgrade. As for the ramifications, it could be anything from a hefty fine to points deductions for the team. This is obviously for 2021. I can't see it affecting Max Verstappen's title. Apparently, it's been confirmed that he's not losing his 7 million. There you go. So, yeah, that is, if you're a Red Bull or a Mercedes, that's a pretty hefty upgrade. If you're a Williams or a Haas, that's a game changer for you. You've got an extra 7 million you can just chuck into your shitbox of a car.
You can't allow this just to go.
It won't be swept under the rug.
Yeah, but it won't. But a fine will be, Steve, because a fine to some of these teams means absolutely diddly squat.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because I think we spoke about this previously. If you fine a team like Williams or Haas, that is dodgy. That's bad. If you fine a team like that, if you fine a team like Ferrari or Red Bull or Mercedes, they go, oh yeah, all right, no worries. They get their wallet out, and there you go. So I think it was years ago. About 10 years ago, when they fined Ferrari for breaking team orders, because back in these days, 2010, there was no team orders allowed, and they told Felipe Massa to move out of the way for Fernando Alonso so he can go and win. They were found guilty of breaking team orders, and they fined them something like a six-figure sum, which is just stupid for Ferrari. This is Ferrari,
Yeah.
So there's got to be something. I've heard that Max isn't in danger of losing his championship, which is fair because he
is it. Is that 7 million quid? Yeah. Hang on, he's got a whole.
He did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. If you get, let's say football, for example, the FA Cup. If your team fields an ineligible player, you don't go, oh, well, that'd be unfair for the other 10 players. Your whole team is kicked out of the cup competition.
Yeah.
You've got to make this punishment, haven't you, worth something? Otherwise, you might as well just say, oh, well, do as you want, lads, really, because we'll just
we have seen when teams have broken rules in the past. I can't remember if I mentioned this last week or whenever it was, but there was Spygate back in 2007 or 7, I think. Or it might have been 08. Either way, it was like the early Hamilton years at McLaren. They were found to be sort of getting some of Ferrari's data from one of their employees. And the team were kicked out of the championship, but the drivers kept their positions. I think it was the year that It might have been the year that Hamilton won, actually. I can't quite remember. It was either 07 or 08. So Fernando Alonso and Lewis, or Lewis and Kovalainen, whoever it was at the time, kept their respective drivers' positions in the championship, but McLaren were booted out. So they were disqualified from the championship, no points. Ferrari won it. Must have been 08 in that case, because, yeah, that's the last time they won the Constructors. So that was, that was obviously a long time ago in Formula One terms. So I can see something similar maybe happening. So, Red Bull get kicked out of the championship, but Verstappen keeps his title and Perez, wherever he finished last year, can't quite remember, which is great because that put Williams up to P7. But, that's all I'm thinking of. But, yeah, it's obviously a very, very serious thing. But I have no doubt that Red Bull will have some kind of clever story or reasoning as to why they did it. Like they thought it was something to do with housekeeping or something. I don't know. So they're clever people at Red Bull. They know what they're doing. Crafty
they people. Are, but you have to also make the punishment a deterrent more than anything. You have to say, look, we don't want this is not something we want to be more of. We have to make this fit the crime, and it is an uphill battle, particularly for the smaller teams, and when the bigger teams are also spending more than they should.
See, that is what does wind me up. And as much as I like, I don't know. I'm sort of indifferent to Red Bull as a team. I like Verstappen, but can you imagine if you're in a team like a Williams? Who I keep using them as an excuse because they are the perfect example.
It's a perfect example.
If you're a team like Williams and you've got a cost cap and you think fantastic, so all of us are going to be limited to how much we can spend. We've got a chance here. And then you get a team like Red Bull who will go up and go, we're just going to spend a few extra cheeky million.
Few? 7? Well, according to Metal J.
Playing it a little bit. But no, I did read 7 million somewhere. So that is, yeah. If you're Williams, you're going to be thinking, for fuck's sake, we are limited now as to what we can spend. And you're still going and doing it. And if they did get fined, that would, if I was a team like Williams or Haas, that would piss me off even more. Because they can just, what's the point in fining them? Because they're a multi-billion-dollar company. They can just pay off anything. So it's got to be something severe, like a team disqualification. That's probably the route I would go down. But we will certainly see.
We will. When's the next race? It's United States. Is it this Sunday coming?
No, next. I got a week off this week.
Week off this week, no problem. We'll pick it up next week with the US race then. We've flown by. It's 33 minutes already. So reminding people where they can find us. And leave us out basically.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for watching. You can always find us on any good podcast platform. You can also find us on Twitter now at Talking F1 Fans. So pop onto there, give us a follow, and get involved, as I always say. You can find us 7:15 every Wednesday. So we're back. Obviously, it's not a race week this week, but no doubt there'll be some news about the cost cap scandal and maybe some team news. There's still 2 seats to fill, so you can join us at 7:15 next Wednesday.
Looking forward to it. And as always, Steve, thanks for joining me. Neil might be back next week. But as Steve just said, see you next week.